While J.R.R. Tolkien's original novels have been around since 1954, the live-action adaptation of the Lord of the Rings saga, directed by Peter Jackson, is turning 20 as of 2021. The trilogy, or if you're like me, one huge movie akin to Back to the Future, Kill Bill, or Avengers Infinity War and Endgame, has been received as some of the best films ever made, and in particular, some of my favorite movies of that decade. And ever since, there have been several video games based on Peter Jackson's adaptation, two of which being direct tie-ins, but one I want to talk about in celebration of the film is the Lego adaptation, which covers all three films. How does it fare up? Let's find out. If you've seen the Lord of the Rings movies and maybe have read the books, you'll get the point of the plot. In the land of Middle-earth, an evil ring surfaced in the volcanic land of Mordor by the Dark Lord Sauron. An alliance of humans and elves storm Mordor and fight Sauron. When the Dark Lord was defeated by Isildur, he has a chance to destroy the ring in the volcano it was created in. Following the elven leader Elrond, Isildur doesn't destroy the ring, instead claims it for himself, succumbing to the ring's power. In the end, this is what gets Isildur killed, leaving the ring to be lost until it gets found by former hobbit Smeagol, who himself is corrupted and mutated into a new identity, Gollum. Later, the ring is found by Bilbo Baggins, who takes it from Gollum's lair on his adventure with the Grey Wizard Gandalf and the dwarves following the events of The Hobbit. Later, the ring stays in the Shire and Bilbo raises his nephew, Frodo Baggins. On Bilbo's birthday, Gandalf comes to visit the Shire to see his old friend. As he does, Gandalf sees that his old friend seems to succumb to some sort of obsession with the ring, but Gandalf convinces Bilbo to leave it behind, leaving the wizard to investigate, and after a council with the elven leaders in Rivendell, Frodo volunteering to send the ring back to the hellish land of Mordor, uniting a fellowship of the wizard Gandalf, a human ranger named Aragorn, a human soldier named Boromir, a dwarven warrior named Gimli, an elven archer named Legolas, and of course, Frodo's fellow hobbits like Merry, Pippin, and his best friend, Samwise Gamgee. But between the forces of Mordor, the treachery of Saruman the White, a life-threatening wound, and the corruption of the ring, Frodo is in for a challenge. And as you would expect from LEGO adaptations since Star Wars, the game retells the story in a really goofy way, but the humor is toned down a little to still catch the mood of an otherwise darker story, and to be fair, it doesn't retell everything. Like Aragorn's romance with Arwen was cut, for example, probably for pacing. But hey, it's faithful to the movies they are based on, they bring a few laughs, the LEGO developers did their job, I'd say. One thing worthy of note, though, is that though it's based on the movies, there's still fan service for those with more admiration for the books. For one, while Tom Bombadil didn't appear in Peter Jackson's films, hell, he didn't appear in the Ralph Bakshi film either, and for one reason. The movie makers felt like he added nothing to the plot. However, Tom Bombadil does appear in the LEGO game as an unlockable, so you can clearly tell someone at TT Games loved Tolkien's work so much they just had to add him, which is awesome. On to the gameplay, and as you'd expect from a LEGO game, it's a simple action platformer, but with a hub world that instead tries to recreate Middle-earth in condensed form. Sure, it feels bigger when you play the levels themselves, but not so much in the hub world. One instance of this is when you're in Gondor and somehow a small hobbit like Frodo takes a little more space than he did in the movies. Hell, Mount Doom was condensed if you try to explore Mordor. Besides that, it functions well enough. Per usual in LEGO games, almost every character you play has their own tools and abilities you need to get across in the storyline, but gain more further on. For instance, Legolas uses his natural elven ability to jump higher while being able to switch and use his bow and arrow. Or someone as small as Frodo can still climb through tunnels, but he uses the light of Elendil to see through dark spaces, and so much more. For free play mode, here's where it gets really fun, as there is a set of collectibles where you can gather mithril bricks, where it's not only needed for 100% completion, it allows you to take to a smith and make various tools and weapons. And yeah, granted a lot of them are goofy, like a disco version of Frodo's elven light, or a sword that even whistles, but with it, you won't always have to switch characters to use differing abilities. Plus, it makes the most quote-unquote useless characters actually useful and without cheat codes too. Donk droids in LEGO Star Wars, I'm looking at you, you useless hunks of junk. Anyway, for audio, LEGO Lord of the Rings does not feature mute interactions. Instead, it uses voice clips from the films, edited over scenes that recreate said films in typical humorous LEGO fashion. Meanwhile, more professional voice actors would lend their talents for characters involved in side quests. Also archived from the films are Howard Shore's compositions, which are also used pretty well. And visually, the game looks stunning on the Xbox 360 and PC, pretty much matching on how Peter Jackson and his team shot their movies. But the Wii version? Oh dear. I know, I stuck with the Wii during its life cycle, so I know to expect the graphics to not look as good, but man, TT Games has done better than this on the platform. LEGO Indiana Jones, for instance, looked good on the Wii. LEGO Lord of the Rings, by comparison, just looks really ugly. Like, for such a late Wii game, wow, this is disappointing. Despite that, this version still plays well as you'd expect, so no complaints from me. Though, while we are on the subject of the Wii version, if you're worried about motion controls, fret not. It can mostly be played with simple button presses on the Wii Remote and Nunchuck, with motion controls limited to the cursor. I just wish there was support for the classic controller or GameCube controller, but again, it works. One thing I still don't like is the dynamic split screen, but before I go any further, I want to address a flaw I made in my LEGO Marvel review. Back then, I did not think to go into the options and realize the split screen mode that Marvel tried to push can, as a matter of fact, be switched to the more traditional vertical format, staying stationary. And even here, with a game released 1 year before LEGO Marvel, dynamic split screen still sucks, as it still makes it feel disorienting to play. So if you're playing local co-op, be sure to switch to a standard format. And what I also dislike is that no matter how hard you customize the controls in the PC version, there is no way to have mouse support like in almost every other action game on the PC, even console ports. And given this is a LEGO game that added the aiming reticle, it really bites that it can't be used. Have a USB controller ready. Overall, LEGO Lord of the Rings not only serves as a great family game based on the legendary franchise by Tolkien, but also serves as a great fan service piece for Tolkien enthusiasts, even on the Wii with not so great visuals. Even there, if you're one of those gamers that care way more about visuals and performance, go for either the Xbox 360 version, especially with the backwards compatibility with subsequent Xbox consoles, or the PC version with clients like Steam, should licensing not be an issue at the time of this recording.